Good morning and welcome back to my channel here, Your Energy Works. This is the episode 27. And today I'd like to talk about my suggestion that we are energy beings, and the problem we have is our energy being disturbed rather than mental illness to begin with. Now, I accept that some people can be mentally ill and over time can become mentally ill, but the primary cause isn't mental illness. I believe the challenge we have is the spiritual malady. There's two writers I'd like to share with you this morning. The first is Martyn LloydJones. He was a minister in Wales in the United Kingdom, and he wrote in his study on the Sermon on the Mount, "It is obviously the tragedy of those outside the church that the world is seeking for happiness. That is the meaning of its pleasure mania. That is the meaning of everything men and women do, not only in their work, but still more in their pleasures. They are trying to find happiness. They are making it their goal, their one objective. But they do not find it, because whenever you put happiness before righteousness, you will be doomed to misery. That is the great message of the Bible from beginning to end. They alone are truly happy who are seeking to be righteous. Put happiness in the place of righteousness, and you will never get it. The world, it is obvious, has fallen into the primary and fundamental error, an error which one could illustrate in many different ways. Think of a man who is suffering from some painful disease. Generally, the one desire of such a patient is to be relieved of his pain. One can understand that very well. No one likes suffering pain. The one idea of this patient, therefore, is to do anything that will relieve him of it. Yes, but if the doctor who's attending the patient is also only concerned about relieving this man's pain, he is a very bad doctor. His primary duty is to discover the cause of the pain and to treat that. Pain is a wonderful symptom which is provided by nature to call attention to disease, and the ultimate treatment for pain is to treat the disease, not the pain. So if a doctor merely treats the pain without discovering the cause of the pain, he is not only acting contrary to nature, he is doing something that is extremely dangerous to the life of the patient. The patient may be out of pain and seem to be well, but the cause of the trouble is still there. Now that is the folly of which the world is guilty. It says, I want to get rid of my pain, so I will want the pictures, drink, drugs, medication, or do anything to help me forget my pain. But the question is, what is the cause of the pain and the unhappiness and the wretchedness? They are not happy who hunger and thirst after happiness and blessedness. No, blessed are they who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. And the second author was in America in the 50s, there was a big drive on healing ministries, starting up not only in America but also in Europe. And one of the founders was this lady, Emily Gardner Neal, who wrote a book called The Lord is Our Healer. And she shares an experience she had in her healing ministry. A few months ago I witnessed a thrilling and not unusual example of the power of group prayer. It was in the South during a 3-day healing mission. On the first night, a young woman came to me and told me that her husband had been for some time in a mental institution, suffering from schizophrenia. He was to be released for a trial weekend the following week. But I'm going to try to get him out to come to this mission. I know how much it will do him. I must confess, personally, I thought that was frankly dubious. It seemed unwise to bring an still ill mental patient, one of whose symptoms was a violent and emotional regard to religion, to a healing mission on his first day out of the hospital. Before going to the church the next night, I spoke to one of the prayer group members and asked that if he should come. They tend to sit behind the person the prayers are directed towards, holding him in prayer. When I began my address, I saw him sitting with his wife directly under the pulpit. In the middle of my talk, I saw him rise and begin to come towards me. My eyes caught those of the group leader, and I knew that they would go into prayer instantly. I watched the man closely, and what I saw was almost uncanny. It was as if an unseen force had stopped him in his tracks and was now pushing him onto his knees. He was to kneel for the remainder of this long service. Throughout, the presence of God was so abundant in that church that had an atomic bomb exploded in our midst, I believe no one would have been harmed. He came to me afterwards, started to speak but couldn't, as the tears streamed down his face. No words were necessary. I knew what he wanted to say. He returned the following night, sat quietly and went up to the altar rail for the laying on of hands. I learned later that when he returned to the mental hospital after his trial 2 days at home, the doctors found him inexplicably improved. He was permanently released a short time later and is now working at a full-time job. He's also an active and dedicated worker in his church. We suffer from spiritual malady. If we can heal the spirit, we can have our lives back. Thank you for joining me today.